There's a salad made with Caesar's mushroom, a favorite of the Roman Emperor Claudius, that's made with the only safe species of a genus so lethal that its members go by names like the Destroying Angel or the Death Cap. I've been collecting mushrooms for 30 years, but this was one that I'd only had in Italy. Shaved raw over vegetables with some Parmesan and olive oil. Simple, dangerous, delicious, and memorable. It's the Italian version of what the Japanese do by eating fugu. Word came to me that a Serbian had found some of the ovally mushrooms in upstate New York. And so I called a few friends and we were going to have Caesar's mushroom here in New York. A dangerous dish, but one of the 100 dishes you have to try before you die. You have as little as the white on my finger over here, and you're sick that evening, you seem to recover, and 3 days later, you're dead. You only do this with a real professional, somebody who knows. No one go and do what we're going to do.
Don't try this at home.
Do not try this in your yard or anywhere. We eat these things raw. Slice them thin. Dress them with thinly sliced celery, a little bit of parsley leaves, and Parmesan cheese, olive oil.
I think a little salt on there would be good too.
If tomorrow we're still around, you know that this is good. Are you guys ready for this? All right. Small fork goes first.
C'est destiné.
It's okay.
It's delicious.
Isn't it wonderful?
What I love is you have this earthiness of the mushrooms with the creaminess. That creaminess continued by the cheese, and then you have the cut of the leaf of the celery. It really works well together.
It's a very subtle thing, but a beautiful thing. Yeah.
It's the 100 dishes you have to have before you die. Number 99, because this may be your last meal. Here's to Devour TV. We give our all. Do you feel that slight tingling in your fingers starting?
Don't tell us that.
Hi, I'm Philippe Newland, and this is Top 50 Dishes New York City. Today we're here at the venerable Gramercy Tavern, and we're going to try out Chef Michael Anthony's hot smoked brook trout. And I promise you, this is definitely one of the top 50 dishes in New York City. Let's go.
My name is Mike Anthony from Gramercy Tavern, and this is the hot smoked brook trout with sunchoke puree and pickled onion vinaigrette. One of the best dishes in New York City. Philippe is gonna love it. Let's go this way and give him a taste.
That looks amazing. Okay, so
It's hot smoked brook trout.
hot smoked brook trout.
And that's different than cold smoking, right? Because there's a direct heat source. It's a hot smoked brook trout with sunchoke puree and pickled onion vinaigrette.
This looks like a painting. I just don't know if I should eat this yet.
Well, in a sense, this is fast food. Dave Harris shows up at the Union Square Farmers Market on Wednesday mornings. We'll have pulled the fish from his ponds at about 2 o'clock in the morning before coming. You know, the key to trout is that they start to break down unbelievably fast. So once they come out of the water, they need to be cleaned immediately, and he does that, really rapidly so that he gets them to the market in the best possible condition. There's a lot of different techniques in smoking. This one is really gentle and not so orthodox. We use an inexpensive Weber grill with applewood chips.
Done on a Weber grill. I mean, that's in your kitchen, the Weber grill?
And in this case, we smoke it to order. It's about a 7 or 8 minute process.
Wow, that's really fast. So just 7 or 8 minutes of smoking?
Filet, the bones are removed, and all it needs is a little gentle heat around 115, 120 degrees. The idea of smoke is just to be suggestive rather than, to really dominate the flavors of the dish.
And then you have it laying over sunchoke puree.
So we took Jerusalem artichokes, roasted them until they were soft, and then peeled them out of their skins. Finished it with just a touch of milk and a little brown butter and a drop of olive oil. And so now is the time of year to go for those sunchokes. And most people leave them in the ground all through the winter, even when the ground is frozen. They can dig up large, pieces of ground with shovels, or even in some cases with a backhoe, and then chip away the frozen soil around it. And those sunchokes are unbelievable. But what better storage facility than keeping them?
Then keep them right in the ground. And then these incredibly colored onions.
The other side, we mince the cipollini onions and then cook them down with a little bit of port, again some raw beet juice, and finish it with red wine vinegar, a light fruity Ligurian olive oil, cracked black pepper. The onions are sliced thin, and then we make a pickling liquid by boiling chunks of beets, rice wine vinegar, sugar, salt, star anise, coriander seed, and then pour that liquid hot over the onion rings, the sliced cipollini onions. This dish was much more complicated when we initially started. It involved many more ingredients that were placed on top of the fish as a salad, which was fun and beautiful and really exciting. But when we stripped them away and kept tasting the dish, again, the most interesting part of that was the connection of the acidic stuff with the light, soft, smooth quality of the dish. And ultimately, I think it's enjoyed more by taking away ingredients rather than adding.
I think I might give it a try.
Go for it.
Here we go. People are a little bit scared when they hear about, as you were saying earlier, the intensity of smoke and smoked dishes. Here, it's just sort of this nuance that ties together with the sweetness of the sunchoke puree, the little relish here of the onions. I'm not waiting for you now. So Michael, thank you so much. I mean, this is just absolutely beautiful. Obviously, Gramercy Tavern, always on New Yorkers' lists of best restaurants. I didn't like it, I loved it. It's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shall we finish it up?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. There's just not a whole lot left. Hi, I'm Philippe Newland with Devour TV's. Today we're on Keen's Steak, Wiley Dufresne's. We're in Soho. I gotta start over. Egg in a hole. Where? Now you got the subway. It's too loud. Mollusks. Let's talk to Ed McSomething, Chef McFarland's lobster roll.
I'm Scott Conan from Scarpetta Restaurant in New York City. So probably one of the craziest stories that's happened to me there's been a lot of them in my career. When I first opened up a restaurant on the East Side, we had a gentleman come in who had been drinking quite a bit, guy from Ireland, and he had a heavy brogue. He actually worked for the United Nations. After a little while, he'd been drinking with a couple friends, and they ended up leaving. I think he had one person left, and then he got his check, and he just was outraged by the bill. I think we had a $12 martini at the time, which in New York City isn't astronomical. It's actually kind of reasonable, all things considered. And I don't know when the chef becomes a voice of reason, but for some reason, after him really carrying on about the bill, he refused to pay it, and we tried to explain to him. He told us that he went to the Four Seasons all the time, and he never paid a bill so excessive, which is hard to believe. I came out of the kitchen, and I tried to go through the itemized bill with him, and I said, "Sir, if you could see, this bill really isn't," and he had a pen in his hand, and he took his pen as I was trying to explain the itemized, and he stabbed me in the hand. I don't have a mark, unfortunately, but he stabbed me in the back, right in this part of my thumb, and he stormed out of the restaurant, refusing to pay the bill at all. So that's not necessarily the best part of the story. He came back the next day, sober and humiliated, and he just felt horrible. And he brought us a 6-pack of beer as a kind of as an apology, and he proceeded to sit at the bar, and we let him drink again, and he paid his bill from the night before, and all was well. And we ended up picking up his check because he just felt horrible about it. It was a good it was a good story.
Where did your passion for wine come from?
I grew up in a family business restaurant. My grandpa opened a restaurant in Toronto in 1961, first formal Italian restaurant.
Interesting vintage.
Well, back then, those things didn't matter to Grandpa. He had sold liquor for, I believe, the Bronfman family, but I will be corrected on that, and apparently ran liquor into the States during Prohibition. So to be
Bootlegger.
Exactly. A lot of good money was made
Love
in those
him.
days.
Love him.
So 1961, to be 50 years old and all of a sudden say, I'm going to change jobs, change industries, and do a formal Italian restaurant was revolutionary. It was called the Scala. My father joined him on the first day, and I was literally born there in 1965. And despite that background, I did not grow up drinking wine. I was young and an athlete. I didn't have my first drink of alcohol until I was 18. I drank like a quart of milk a day. I wanted to be a soccer player, all of these things. But
how's the soccer career?
well, I'm still in the restaurant business. But my children are going to get there from me.
Live through them.
Exactly.
Live through them.
And I did dabble in the restaurant and up at the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, which
You worked at the retail?
I didn't work there retail, but you had to buy all your wine there.
Got it.
Wholesale or retail.
Yep.
And every Saturday at the Vintages in downtown Toronto, they opened up some cool, great bottle of wine. And back in 1988, on that Saturday, they opened up a bottle of 1967 Chateau Yquem. One of the greatest vintages,
Sure.
greatest Chateau Yquems ever. And I went there with my best friend Bill. We paid $30 to get 1 ounce.
Wow.
So I paid my $30. This was 9:30 in the morning. Got my 1 ounce in some stinky little glass, and tasted it and said, aha. That was the moment for me where everything came together. And I didn't, other than doing a
You
little...
obviously had some interest in wine at that point if you were going to drop 30 bones on a 1 ounce Yquem.
For me, I was into the show. The show of whatever
Right.
it was. The show of
Right.
Depeche Mode and Echo and the Bunnymen. I ran a pub at the University of Toronto. I was
Got it.
into big production shit. And you know what, when you read about, what little I had read about wine, Chateau Yquem was always there.
Sure.
It was on the pedestal,
Sure.
the pantheon. So I was like, how can I not spend $30 for this stuff?
You wanted to tell people you had it.
Exactly. Good way to put it. So I still have the glass.
No
Never
shit.
been cleaned. It's collected dust, but still the inside of the glass has that residue of Chateau Yquem.
No kidding.
Got a nice little sticker on there. But that for me was it. And from then on, I said, holy, can wine really embody all of these things? Not just this incredible flavor profile, but this history. Thomas Jefferson had that stuff. We've been making wine in this region for 500-600 years, and history and philosophy were always interests of mine, but I was asked to leave the University of Toronto because I specialized in hospitality. But I still wanted to dabble in those fields, and wine, I realized, would allow me not only to
do both.
drink some cool stuff, but to talk about history, philosophy, culture. Wine is at the center of everything in my world. So that's why I jumped in.
How to make a mayonnaise. Egg yolks, oil, lemon, salt, food processor. First, combine the egg yolks and the lemon juice in the food processor. From here, add your oil just a little bit at a time, starting with a few drops and working your way towards a tiny stream. The further along you get, the more oil you can pour in. If it gets really thick, just add a little bit of water, then go back to pouring in a little bit of oil. It should have a nice ribbon consistency. If it starts to look like water, it's broken. You added too much oil too fast and you'll want to start over. But if it looks like this, you did perfectly. Now go make a sandwich.
Hi there. Winter's approaching fast, but you don't need to settle for Grandma's cognac and hot toddies. Beat off your winter blues with one of my favorite cocktails ever. Today, we're having sex on the beach.
You'll need 1.5 ounces of vodka, half an ounce of peach schnapps, 2 ounces of cranberry juice, 2 ounces of orange juice, a highball glass, and some ice. Simply add your ice to the highball glass and build your drink straight into the glass. Garnish with an orange or cherry, and succulate.
Sweet and sultry. Almost as good as the real thing. And no sand in your crack.
Cheese is easy. You like strong smells? A particularly smelly cheese. Most people seem to think it's hard. Would you call it stinky? How about smelly cheese? Do you like smelly cheese? Talk to people. See what their comfort level is with cheese.
I'm David Rosengarten. Welcome to Cheese 101. This is the washed rind cheese segment. I usually find that most people who are in a room with washed rind cheeses can't stand the smell. So in support of them, I'm wearing nose clips. For myself, I prefer it without the nose clips. Thank you very much. Washed rind cheese is one of my favorite categories of all. It's kind of special. What they do is they create basically a soft cheese. And it could be cow's milk. It's usually cow's milk. It could be sheep's milk, sometimes goat, but usually cow. And then they, well, wash it is pretty literal and pretty correct. They wash it. They bathe the outside of this cheese. Now, this cheese already has a light rind. Then they bathe that rind over a period of days or even weeks, sometimes with beer, sometimes with hard cider, sometimes with brandy. There's a type of brandy in France that's called Marc, M-A-R-C, Marc. And there are many cheeses in France that are washed with Marc. Anyway, when the cheese is washed with Marc, or wine, or brandy, or anything, what happens is the bacteria that are on the surface of the cheese, on the outside, already on the rind, they start to eat the wash. Yes! They drink the mar, they drink the brandy, these little small animals, these bacteria. And then, you know what happens when living things eat living things? Other things come out of those living things. Poop, as we say in French. This is basically bacteria poop on the outside of these cheeses. And it smells like hell, but it's a hell that I want to go to. Really funky. I mean, poopy diaper is a very accurate description. This one that I have right here is a look at the funk that this has gone through. This is actually a sheep's milk cheese from Corsica, and it has undergone the process, but I can tell it's kind of a little bit too firm for my taste. This is a cow's milk, typical washed rind cheese from the Champagne region of France. The cheese is called Langres. Interestingly, since it's from the Champagne region, the tradition is to make this cheese, and you can see the nice color that all washed rind cheeses get. That's one of the ways you know the category, kind of orange or reddish. They always made this with a little depression in the cheese, and the reason they did this is because when you serve this cheese, you're supposed to put a little squirt of champagne on top of it, and then you cut into the cheese, and that champagne kind of gurgles in and runs all over the cheese and gives it a nice little flavor lift. It's nice looking cheese, but I like my washed rind cheese to be younger than that and really runny. All right, now this guy I have high hopes for. He is from Quebec, and there's some excellent cheese being made today in Quebec. This particular cheese is called Magie de Madawaska. I have no idea why, but I do know that it's got the right feel on it. Hard, hard. This feels like a waterbed. That's what it should feel like. Some people say like the webs between your fingers should feel like that as well. That's kind of how it feels. Let's go in. I want it to run. If it were to run, I would be very happy. That would be enough for me for today if it were to run. Alors, it doesn't run. But it is creamy. Let me give it a taste. Creamy is nice. I mean, it's nice. I would eat this. I would buy this, but I wanted to like spill its guts all over the counter. Excellent. Very good, but not runny enough, not stinky enough. Come back and see me when you've tasted something that really tastes like shit.
From what I understand, the smellier the cheese, the better it is.
It smells worse than my dog shit.
I like the stinkier the better.
Hey, Gross, tell me about the palate.
And what the palate is, the tongue, or the fancy word, palate. When you taste the wine, you gotta look at the wine, you're gonna smell the wine, but ultimately, you're going to taste the wine. And what I'm gonna do now is just make myself an excuse to stick my tongue out at you, because this is where you taste wine, okay? That right there, that's the tip of your tongue. That's where you have the sensation of sweetness. Here, on the sides of your tongue is where you feel acidity. Way in the back is where you feel bitterness and also alcohol. Like a really alcoholic wine will burn your throat. Now also your gums up in here and the roof of your mouth have a lot to do with tasting wines too. In wine, there's 3 out of the 4 tastes. Sweet, sour, bitter, salt. There's no salt in wine, so all you taste is sweet, sour, and bitter. Sweetness, acidity, tannin. Now there's another part of the tongue that never gets the respect it deserves in science books, but it means a lot with wine. Right here. That's the center of your tongue. There's no flavor perceptors there, but that is where you will feel the weight of the fruit. Right in the center of your tongue. Hope you learned something today. This is John Grossweiler. Always be passionate, never pretentious.
My name is Claudia Fleming, and I'm the pastry chef and co-owner of the North Fork Table and Inn in South Hold, New York.
I'm Jerry Hayden of the North Fork Table and Inn. I'm here to talk about my relationship with KK Haspel from the farm.
One of the things we try to do here is work locally and seasonally. And we happened to find a woman named KK Haspel.
KK is, as lively as a person as you could possibly imagine.
I was just talking to my horsetail here, and I'm saying, Horsetail, may I speak with you? Horsetail, are you alive? Yes.
And she just kind of sucks you into her world. And her world is this farm that she has, the 7+ acres of biodynamic farm over there.
KK turned us on to biodynamics, which is much more complicated than I could ever begin to describe.
The biodynamic preparations, it's the only thing that'll really heal the earth. It's actually way beyond organics. It's like a holistic approach to organics. The biodynamics will actually even eat things like radioactivity and other pesticides and poisons that might have been in your soil. We've got it shot at transforming all the property, all the land, all the soil that's been abused over all these years and healing it and bringing back to balance, because that's what the biodynamics does.
The spirituality of biodynamic is something that I don't necessarily understand. I do understand that the product is superior to any other product that I've used, and it's very similar to me. I equate biodynamics and the spirituality of the farming to electricity. I don't understand electricity. I know that when I flip a switch, the light goes on.
Okay, so when they cross like that, it's yes. Okay, show me my no. All right, that's better, a little quicker. Thank you, guys. The important thing is to make sure of how you ask the question, because if you asked a plant, do you want to be watered, it would always say yes. So the question is, do you want to be watered now? We're going to talk to the garlic now. Hello, garlic. May I put out the silica spray on you now? No, I don't think I was going to like it. The silica is ground up quartz. You can imagine a magnifying glass and all the crystals and all the refraction of that. And what it does is it refracts the light. So what you're doing with this is you're catching all of the cosmic forces and putting them into a concentration like a beam of light. This little teaspoon and this 3 gallons of water here will do a whole acre. It's actually taken and put in a cow horn, and quartz is ground up in a mortar and pestle until it's as fine as you can see how fine these granules are, and it's like a dust. You stuff the silica ground up into the cow horn and you bury it in the summer when the light is the most intense in the earth.
I use her blackberries and her blueberries and raspberries and strawberries when she has them. She also grows the most amazing flowers, zinnias that just have personality. They have faces and they're happy, and the same with the sunflowers. They're just incredible. I've never seen flowers or produce like it before.
These were dug up just about 3 hours ago. They are just very thin-skinned, hard as baseballs, and that's to have a potato dug freshly out of the ground rather than having to purchase it from someone who you know that it's been stored for over 3 months, if not a year.
After the first war, there were a lot of chemicals around, and people who had been farming the same way for hundreds and hundreds of years were now being told, to put these other fertilizers out on their property, and they kept noticing things were going downhill rapidly. So they asked Steiner, who he's sort of a clairvoyant and a seer, and I believe that the plants talked to him and they told him things. In 1924, he gave a series of 8 lectures, and farmers from all over came, and that series of 8 lectures is the foundation of biodynamics. Voila! So, we're done. So now what we need to do is strain this and spray it out.
As far as I'm concerned, biodynamic farming and the way KK does it is essentially what was done centuries ago, and we are finally going back to it, and we're really only scratching the surface with it. But I think that she is on to something that will be producing food, superior vegetables and produce for a very, very long time.